SMT Nation, we are back. Nation, this is getting messy. It's getting confusing, but I'm going to bring some clarity to it. Elon Musk, SpaceX, Starlink, T-Mobile. This is a thing that has caused a lot of trouble within the industry. There are some really important technical things, interference. You got Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, Dish, satellite operators. They're all involved. Let's talk about these updates. All right, first of all, I'm going to link this article. This is from Michael over at pcmag.com. I'll link it for you guys in the description. Ways to support us can be found there as well. Please do like and share this video. Subscribe if you're new here, and turn on the bell notifications icon to never miss an upload from the SMT. All right, folks, so here's the situation. We're going to go back, okay? Last year, there were rules established for SCS. That's what we're going to call it the rest of the video. SCS stands for Supplemental Coverage from Space. What T-Mobile refers to as, quote, critical supplemental to terrestrial coverage. So a connection when they don't have their traditional cell coverage on land, on terrestrial, okay? T-Mobile, Verizon, AT&T, Dish, SpaceX, AST, all the sat operators, all the carriers were there when them and the FCC made the rules. The rules are about power limitations. Those limitations exist so that adjacent and neighboring frequencies don't cause interference to other adjacent bands and frequencies. So basically, we've had like terrestrial coverage cell networks in band 2 for a long time, right? PCS spectrum, 1900 megahertz, stretches over to about the 2000 megahertz range. Terrestrial coverage is priority number one, guys. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. SCS is a distant accessory connection. So that's the background. The second piece to this, T-Mobile has now requested a special cheat pass from the FCC to increase power on their SCS. Why would they want to do this? Because if they were withheld to the rules on the broadcasting and the power, their connection either doesn't work at all or it sucks really bad. It could be both, whatever. The third part of this, AT&T, Verizon, EchoStar, Dish, all these entities are pushing back due to the interference risk. Even though the FCC knows there's interference risk. So it's not just the carriers, the quote-unquote competitors trying to sabotage T-Mobile. The FCC knows that the risk is there. There's a reason why they set the rules where they did, and the carriers knew about all of this. The FCC then takes 2 days to deny the waiver, which in my opinion is the fastest thing that the FCC has ever done. The next step, T-Mobile is now bugging for reconsiderations. They teamed up their lawyers, their engineers. They're not giving up. Right? They even now have Elon and SpaceX politicking on their behalf. You guys will see it on the screen. Elon is now publicly saying Starlink will offer free emergency service to all phones. This is to get in the good graces of the FCC. This is a political move. And believe me, he's operating on the behalf of himself because he doesn't want to look stupid. He's operating on behalf of T-Mobile because he obviously is getting paid to deploy. And I'm sure he promised them that he would be able to do this with their spectrum and blah, blah, blah. Anyways, T-Mobile's fighting. They put in a formal request. Their team of lawyers and engineers put together this rebuttal to try to get this, waiver supported. They are claiming that there's no data to support that there's going to be interference risk. AT&T, Verizon, and Dish have indicated that there is, but they're denying it. The FCC has indicated there's interference as well. The quote from T-Mobile, the waiver is appropriate for this circumstance and interference does not occur. In response to the AT&T denial, and as well as, I think, Verizon and Dish, T-Mobile says none of them can produce engineering data proving interference, citing faulty claims. I looked at what T-Mobile was saying with regards to the power levels. I guess technically the band limit is minus 120 decibel watt per meter squared per megahertz. SpaceX wants to do minus 110.6. which I think is 9x beyond the limit. This is what would cause interference for all those carriers, including small carriers, regional providers that don't even have a voice in all this, right? AT&T has said there's going to be interference for sure. Loss of 18% in throughput. T-Mobile says their claims are faulty. They say they can't prove it. Where's the study? They say that Verizon's claims of smartphone, well, this would be like user equipment having interference issues. I know they mentioned like the elevated noise floor, which indicates interference. They're saying that that's not true. And with respect to like Dish and the satellite operators, T-Mobile and SpaceX say that the sat operators' claims are baseless and are missing the point. So look, let me explain something to you guys. And this is very obvious. If what T-Mobile is saying is true, and what Elon is saying is true, and the carriers are all wrong, Verizon is wrong, their engineering team is wrong, AT&T is wrong, Dish is wrong, then why the hell is Elon doing this? Why the hell is he politicking to push this along? Why? The FCC is the same entity that took money and funding away from Elon just 1 year ago. Why does he want to be nice to them? This is how you know someone's lying. And look, I've already made it very, very clear. The two possibilities are that T-Mobile just didn't give a shit and they were going to risk the interference and try to get this approved. Or it's Elon overpromised and told T-Mobile he could do it when he really couldn't, and now he's trying to violate the rules that were set from the beginning. I don't know which one it is, and I don't really care. All I know is that when there are rules to the game, you're not allowed to cheat. The FCCs are the referees. The other carriers have an obligation to protect their networks from being impacted by a bit piece, an absolute tiny, minuscule connection that is going to be, I don't want to say meaningless, because it's very possible that a sat connection could be meaningful in a situation where you don't have satellite coverage and an emergency could occur. I'm not devaluing that. But if you can't play by the rules, then you can't play, right? And it's literally that. The rules were set in place. They all knew the rules. I'm almost starting to switch away. I mean, obviously, I have to assign blame to T-Mobile for trying to violate rules, but I think it's really Elon. I'm beginning to think that's the case. I think it's him. I think he overpromised. He gave T-Mobile confidence in what he was doing. So don't worry, we could do this, in order for him to get that account. Or else I think, what AST has going on with AT&T and Verizon, because of that coordination of the 850 megahertz, it makes more sense. And they don't have those interference concerns. They don't have those power restriction issues. They're not having to violate the rules in order to make it work. And that's what this boils down to. This connection from Elon and SpaceX is not going to be good. It's not going to be suitable for the needs of phone users and carrier customers across the country. It's just not going to do what he promised. I think he's saying, you could do reliable calling, messaging, and then data sessions in the future. I don't think so. Not based on the interference, which separate entities unassociated to the carriers have produced data and studies on this, right? So you have all this, and it's just all lining up against T-Mobile and SpaceX. So I'm going to end the video by saying this. Number one, this is a bad look for the industry. This is trying to undermine the FCC, which has already been absolutely a clown show for years. And it's only gotten worse over the last 3-4 years. The FAA, that whole thing with C-band, yeah. And the cbrs debacle, and there's just so much. This is just going to make it worse. It's just getting nasty. It's getting bad. It's a bad look. The politics are awful. It's just really bad. And then it sets a precedent. If you're going to give them some kind of like a rule exemption, what does that say? You ain't got no teeth. You got no backbone, right? You didn't stick to your guns. And the carriers are going to be impacted because they're building terrestrial networks. Meanwhile, T-Mobile's trying to do stuff from space, causing interference to harm the other customers. This is all bad precedent. So if it was me and I'm the FCC, this is just me personally, I'm not granting the exemption. I'm standing 10 toes down. That's my authority. That's my job, right? If I'm T-Mobile and SpaceX, I'm fighting. I'm trying to get this power turned up so my connection can actually be usable. I think the problem is going to be that this isn't going to be worth paying for. It's going to be so bad, so unreliable, almost useless, to where it's like you might get messaging and that's it. I think that's what this is about. So if I'm the carriers, I'm fighting. If I'm the FCC, I'm denying. If I'm T-Mobile and SpaceX, I'm going to continue to try to get that waiver. I don't think it's going to happen. I think the end game is just going to be a shitty connection from Elon, his satellites, and for T-Mobile customers who think this is going to be reliable. I think they're sadly misguided. You know, and I try to shoot you guys straight, and I always tell it like it is. A spade is a spade. You know, I looked through all these documents. I looked at the studies. I looked at the data points. I've spoken to my engineering people internally. I mean, it's all the same thing. It's kind of, it's just going to be shitty if they're going to stick to the rules. They want to violate the rules, and that's what this is really about. Anyways, I hope I cleared up some of this for you guys. Hopefully it all makes sense. Hey, nice little gesture from Elon. It's not happening, dog. I don't think it's going to work out for him. And, you know, you're welcome to keep trying. You know, the worst thing the FCC could say no, which I think they're going to say no, and they'll continue to say no. Anyways, what's your take on all this? Let me know if this offers clarity and this kind of makes sense to you. And if you still have questions, we could try to answer them. And I know some folks out there follow satellites closely, and some folks out there understand the engineering piece to this pretty well. So let's get it. Let's beat it up in the comment section. Tell me what you guys think about all this. You know, the voice of the people of the SMT Nation. Let your voice be heard.